So, as I said before, I decided that I wanted to investigate whether or not incomes were very unequal throughout the Jefferson County area. And it made the most sense to me to investigate this based on zip code. And just in case we're not sure what a zip code is, that's the way that the U.S. Postal Service has Jefferson County divided up. So, for example, this is a map of Jefferson County, and then all the individual zip codes that make up Jefferson County. And the first thing I needed to do was actually get a list of what those zip codes were. And I found a website I just did a simple Google search, first of all. And it's important, just like when you're reading an article or anything like that, that just when you're getting data sources just like this, it's important that you look for something that is reliable. And so what I found was the very first thing that popped up. I know that since it's a Gov website, this is from the Jefferson County, and so I could be pretty, you still can't necessarily know 100% of the time, but hopefully there aren't too many, everybody makes mistakes, but hopefully that's going to be accurate data because it does come from the local government. So I used that website in order to get a list of the local zip codes, and that website looked like this. And it actually, I've included this, I included it in the link in this topic on Google Classroom. You're going to see a link to this particular website. And there is a function that allows me to download that information, and I downloaded it into a spreadsheet, which I put into a Google Sheet, and it's attached to this section as well in case you decide that you want to use it for yourself. And you'll see that there is a copy of that zip code Google Sheet right here in this section where you're viewing this video. I should note that, again, everybody makes mistakes. I did find a couple of zip codes when I was double checking the data that I downloaded. I did find a couple of zip codes that ended up not actually being in Louisville. And I did remove those, or they were in Louisville, but there were a couple, for example, like the General Electric plant has its own zip code. So just so you know, in full disclosure, if you decide to use this list, I did find a couple of mistakes, even though I downloaded it from a government website. There were a couple of things that weren't actually inside of Louisville. And I did remove the things, like businesses that have their own zip code. So I've done the best I can to double check and make sure this list is accurate. But please just be aware that there is a chance if you do find some mistakes. But I've definitely tried to do my due diligence, and as far as I know, these are all correct and the zip codes are free for you to use. So after I got that list of zip codes, I wanted to investigate the income that was inside of each zip code. And I used this data that you'll also find in the same area you're viewing this video, the census. And so for those of us that don't know what that is, the U.S. Census is every 10 years the government first of all, counts all the people that are in the United States, or they do the best job they can. There are obvious issues with getting everybody, and which that is kind of for a subject outside of the scope of this video. And they also collect demographic data, including racial, ethnic data, and income data. So I used that link in order to find out information about each of the zip codes in Louisville. And when I click on that link, it gives me a place just to search. So I wanted to explore income. So I typed in the search box, median income. Louisville, Kentucky. And it gives you options for You'll notice the most recent date that it's going to have is 1999. And I know that probably seems really out of date, but it's because, as I mentioned, the census is done every 10 years, and they just did the 2020 census. I know this is 2021 at this point, but because of the coronavirus, the census is running a little bit behind. So they do calculate that income every 10 years, which is why the most recent data that we have is earlier. So I can get some newer information that by going to, what I did is I clicked on Maps. And because I selected Jefferson County, Kentucky, it did automatically highlight the information from Jefferson County, Kentucky. But I want to make it a little bit more, I want it broken up by zip code, because right now, if I do the selection I've gotten, it'll give me the median income for all of Jefferson County, and you can see that the most recent date they have here is 2019. So now I'm getting to newer information. Still, a couple years out of date, of course, because they just did the census and we don't have the results yet. But not bad, just a couple of years old. So in order to break down the information by zip code, what I did is I went to right here where it says place. There's a little drop-down menu that you'll see there. And instead, it gives you all these different options for how it wants you to do the data. And I selected zip code tabulation area. But you'll see there's like a lot of different things you could do. You can select by, so many categories, all the way down to even school district if you wanted to do that. So I should note that it is important to notice that the zip code for the census is not exactly 100% the same as the zip code that the post office does. But for our purposes here, if you do a little bit of research, you'll see that most experts say it's pretty close. So zip code tabulation area is a tiny bit different from zip code, but not enough that it's going to make a big difference for what we're doing here. So now that I've got it broken down by zip code, what I could do is I could hit the select button, and if you are, and that select button was right here. So if for your particular data, you're only interested, say, in one neighborhood, this would be the tool that you want to use in order to select. You would probably just want to hover over the map. You'll click select, and you can select, you can even zoom in on the map, and it'll give you a real, you actually see the neighborhood, and you could just highlight that particular area, and it will give you the statistics just for that particular neighborhood. Now, that's not what I want to do, because I want information by zip code. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to click this Clear Geos button. Basically, the data I selected is now going to be cleared. And I am going to click on Customize. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to go to Tables right here. And you can see that right now, it gives me the information just for the city of Louisville. So I want it broken down by zip code. So that's why I'm going to click Customize Table.
Oh, come on.
And I'm where it says Geo. That stands for the geographical location that I want. So I'm going to click on that. I clicked on that I'm going to look it up by state. So I clicked on state. Then obviously I'm in Kentucky. Whoops, sorry folks, I realized I picked the wrong thing. Instead of state, you can see here under geography, there's a whole bunch of stuff. You could even do by block. I, however, am clicking on zip code tabulation area. So I clicked on that. And then I need to tell it what state I'm looking in, which is Kentucky. And then here are all the zip codes in Kentucky. So what I did is I took my list of zip codes that I got from the previous, from that previous website, and I put a check mark in all the zip codes that are just in Louisville, Kentucky. And that is how I got the information that I'm also going to attach just so that you can see it and kind of see how it works. That's how I got this information, which was by zip code. And so then I had to tell it what information I wanted. And in order to do that, I clicked on topic. And I chose income and poverty. And that's where I got the income for each of those zip codes. So you can see that there are so many topics that you can choose from in order to get this information for yourself. And all you have to do in order to get your own copy, to get like a little spreadsheet the same way that I did, is you can click, and you can also, I'm going to go to years, and you can see that you've got the different years that you can pick the data that you want. And then once you get, so I've chosen, again, I broke it down by zip code. I said under topic that I wanted income, and I am going, there's several different ways you can do that. The best way I recommend to get access to this data is to click the download button. And if you do that, since you're logged in with your JCPS username, you should have access to Excel through Microsoft. So if you click download, it should download the information that you want, and you want to download it because it's going to make it easier to work with the data. You're going to want to download it using the the option that should come up by default, and then just click the download button, and it will give you that information. And so that is how, again, I got, for each zip code in Jefferson County, I got the median income, which was this row, and the mean income. For reasons that I'll explain later, I'm going to use the median income. So in case you need a review about what's the difference between median and mean, I've attached another video here that explains the difference and why it's going to be better in this particular case for me to use the median. So I know that I just gave you a lot of information about how to locate and download data. So now let's test out and make sure that that kind of sunk in. So you're going to see on Google Classroom right underneath where this video is that I've given you a list of different data resources. You don't have to use those. You could use something else, but use any source of data that you like to come up with your own data set. So something that looks a little something like this. It could be a list of incomes, like demographics, just some kind of a data list, just to make sure that it makes sense to you how to access that information. And please, once you do that, upload a copy right here. So you should have an Excel file when you get finished. And so just click add or create and upload a copy of your data file just to make sure that what I just said in that video makes sense. And then add a comment to explain to me why you believe that your data source was correct. So for example, I would upload a copy of my form from my Google Drive, and then I would have said that I believe it's reliable because it came from the Census Bureau. And then mark is done. so that I can take a look at your data source. And that way we can go ahead and get any issues worked out right away, right? If you're having any kind of technical difficulties, we can get those worked out early in the process. Can't wait to see what you come up with.